Hello and welcome to this. This is the first live stream event of this run of Caring for Vulnerable Children, so a warm welcome to the live stream. I guess you know this by now already. My name's Graham McPhee. I'm the lead educator on the Caring for Vulnerable Children programme, and I'm delighted that you can join us for this part of the course this week. I appreciate that most people kind of will watch this after the fact, the recording, if you're not able to join us in real time. But for those of you that are watching and listening just now, and especially kind of warm welcome. Again, now this is us on to our 11th run of Caring for Vulnerable Children. We've got over 2,000 joiners on this run of the course, which is absolutely fantastic. We're now actually we're not too far off getting to the overall figure of 70,000 joiners across 11 different runs. The course first ran in 2015, so it's been great to have so many people over the years join the programme and engage in the discussions and debates and polls and conversations that come up on a week-to-week basis through the programme. And the first 2 weeks of this run have been no different. It's been really interesting to scan the various chats and conversations that are happening and the comments across all the different pages, not just where we actually initiate discussions, but also you've got the ability to post comments on any item, and we get lots of different comments posted about different things in different places. So we can really encourage everybody to kind of keep doing that and keep the conversations going, and responding to the material and responding to the thoughts and comments of other learners on the programme. What I'm planning, I guess we get kind of three main things I'd like to do in this session today. One is to respond to and talk to the poll that we started in week one in relation to the 10 different scenarios that we asked you to respond to. You may have seen the results. We'll kind of talk about that and some of the kind of issues that come up from that. So there's some interesting things there. Secondly, going to talk a little bit about Billy's story. We're also now 2 weeks into Billy's story, and some different things have been happening, and to pick up on some of the points and comments and discussions that have developed on the back of Billy's story, and how we can kind of think about that, some of the issues raised by Billy's story more widely. And then thirdly, I pulled out just a range of different comments and questions from various steps and pages on the course about the different points that have been made by different participants that I think are kind of quite interesting, quite thought-provoking, and give us different, I guess, different things to think about. So that's what we're going to cover over the kind of next kind of 35-40 minutes or so. So I'm going to start with the poll. So in week one, you'll remember that we created a poll, kind of rating risk and vulnerability, and it started week one, and we're thinking about caring for vulnerable children and this notion of risk and vulnerability. So just as an introductory exercise, we give you 10 very, very brief scenarios and ask you to highlight or pick the three that you thought contained the most risk, the most vulnerability, caused you the most concern, and to say what those were and why. And probably as a starting point, as important as that, almost a kind of disclaimer, because I see kind of number of comments, kind of people saying, well, actually to do this properly I would need a bit more information, and yes, you're right, and especially for thinking about kind of social workers or other professionals in that situation, yes, they would need a whole lot more information before they were able to kind of carry out kind of proper, thorough assessments and kind of think about appropriate responses in these scenarios. So what we were doing is more, I guess, an academic kind of learning exercise, and asking people to kind of think about that. Right, well, kind of what are just kind of some of the issues or factors that kind of raise concerns for you about issues of risk or vulnerability, and how do you begin to kind of rate and kind of categorise that. So we kind of put in the disclaimer to begin with. And now, if you haven't already, now we're also into week two of the course, but if you go back to week 1 and click on the page where the poll was, then you will see that the results have been posted there, and also some comments from myself in terms of response to the comments that have been posted. And the results, we kind of give them as a percentage in terms of the people that voted, what percentage picked each of the 10 scenarios. And we've got 3 or 4 scenarios that gather a whole lot more votes than the other scenarios. And the first one that I'm going to kind of pick out is the scenario that got the most votes. It got 74% of you that voted selected a scenario, and it was scenario number 1. A tiny baby who's been given a violent shaking by their carer, who has learning difficulties and is upset because the baby won't stop crying. So just nearly 3/4 of you selected that scenario. Again, I would say kind of fairly unsurprisingly, I'd imagine, and again thinking about kind of some of the comments that people posted in response to this. So if I just go to my piece of paper here, and so I've got a comment here from Tori McCumiskey. So thanks for your comment, Tori. And she started by saying, I made my decisions based on the age of the individual. The younger the individual, the more they're not able to fend for themselves. And I think that's a pattern that we see through your responses to these scenarios, because this scenario with the tiny baby got the most votes. So this sense of a baby in that kind of extreme vulnerability, 100% dependence on the adult carers looking after them. And then we've got a carer with learning difficulties. Now we don't get any more information about the degree of learning difficulty or kind of how much that impacts on their ability to be a carer, but learning difficulties, upset because the baby won't stop crying. Well, I guess, and we factor in within that, well, anybody could get upset because a baby won't get on crying, because a baby's upset and won't stop crying. But when, on the basis of the information that we've got, perhaps not surprising that 74% of you kind of rated this in your top 3. And then similarly in relation to the age bit and the bit about the vulnerability of younger children, the scenario which got the next most votes after that was scenario 4. It got 63% of you who voted selected this. A 6-month-old baby boy who's not had any attention or anything to eat for 10 hours. So 63% of you picked that. But then going back to the bit about how much more information would you need, because I got another comment here from Donna W. So Donna, thanks for your comment. Donna said, I found this difficult task given we only have a limited amount of information, but some of the situations can be viewed from different sides. So he says, for example, a 6-month-old baby boy who's not had any attention or anything to eat for 10 hours. And she makes the point, a 6-month-old baby may sleep through the night and not require feeding or attention until he wakes. And yes, absolutely the case. So 63% of the kind of were sufficiently concerned about this one that it was in your top 3. But there could be different explanations. And again, what this is pointing towards, that in order to make any true assessment or judgment of vulnerability or risk in relation to any of these scenarios, we would need more information, and the professionals or carers involved in certain scenarios, that would be kind of part of their task to try and gather that information before and to come to more kind of reasoned and evidence conclusions about what's happening, and notions of vulnerability and risk and need would be assessed on the basis of that, and any responses dictated following that. So there would be more information needed. The next scenario that they got the most votes after that would be scenario 5. It got 57%, so it's just slightly over half of you that voted selected this. A 4-year-old girl who has a mother who is suffering from depression and is not bothered to feed her for 24 hours. And I noticed a kind of couple of comments here where people, I think quite helpfully, were drawing a distinction between, I'm not necessarily selecting this just because the mum has depression, because there will be many parents, there will be many carers who suffer from depression and are fantastically good, positive parents or carers. And the bit that seemed to cause more of concern, and who has not bothered to feed her for 24 hours. Now again, we could kind of draw a distinction that in comparison to the baby, or the 6-month-old baby, could a 4-year-old begin to get some stuff for themselves? I saw some people make comments about that. Well, yes, possibly in some scenarios, but it would seem to be and perhaps Noble worded it quite provocatively in that sense, this notion of that the mother has not bothered to feed her for 24 hours, and the emphasis or the suggestion that's placed by that in terms of this is actually a choice on the parent's behalf, in terms of I'm choosing not to feed them, I can't be bothered to do it, and that causing concerns about kind of risk and vulnerability. But I guess what I'd encourage everybody to do is to look at to go back to the week 1 material, look at the results, see the results that are there, and also the comment that I've offered. And I'm just going to read out kind of part of analysis here, because just in kind of terms of, yes, it is an academic exercise and what we would need to do to take this further. So what I said is, to make full assessments, more information in all situations would be required. Additionally, a small change in the information presented may have made a significant change in the voting. So I make the suggestion that in scenario 3, now scenario 3 is a 15-year-old girl who has recently befriended a man who has persuaded her to do sexual things to him in exchange for money and affection. Now that got 46% of your votes as it currently was. I said if you changed it from a man to a 16-year-old boy, I think we could still anticipate it would get votes, but I think we could anticipate quite reasonably it might get less votes, because it brings whilst there's still power and coercion, in terms of the two children being more of the same age, as opposed to an adult. We'll have more exercises like this through the 6 weeks, that there'll be kind of further polls where we'll ask you to kind of rate material such as this. So I encourage you to kind of keep thinking about some of the issues that are raised by this. Let's move on to, we're going to speak next about Billy's story. So we're into week 2 of Billy's story. Now you get introduced to the story, the general scenario, in week 1. And then we got a bit more information in week 2, and you began to discover a bit more about Billy's relationship with both his mum and his dad. Obviously they're separated. You began to get more of a sense of some of the struggles that Billy's mum has with regards to her mental health, and the impact that has on her relationship with Billy, her ability to be in that parental role, and some of the impact that has on Billy himself. Then we also learn more about Billy's relationship with his dad and some of the challenges and complexities there. And then we also got a bit of information towards the end about a more supportive relationship that Billy has with a school teacher, Mr. Merton. And the question that you were asked at the end of week 2, the second instalment of Billy's story, was, right, on the basis of what you've kind of found out this week, are you more or less worried about Billy? And generally there would be, from scanning all the comments, there's a kind of broad consensus that people were more concerned with Billy, having found out what we got in week 2, that there's more concern. And I've pulled out a couple of comments that I think kind of highlight some of the main issues that were being expressed. So the first one I pulled out is from Helen Young. So Helen, thanks for your comment. Helen says, I think Billy and his mum need more support at home, particularly when Karen's mental health deteriorates and Billy is left feeling isolated. I'm concerned when he is left at a loose end, or when his dad is cancelled, he's increasingly vulnerable, and he needs somewhere or someone to support him at these times. I think the relationship Billy has with his guidance teacher is extremely important, but I'm concerned about who he can talk to at the weekend, evenings, school holidays. And the comments that Helen has made here kind of capture a thread of a lot of the comments that are made here about kind of recognising that it's not just Billy that potentially needs support here, it's Billy and his mum in terms of that kind of family unit, and actually the fact that Helen makes an interesting bit at the start of her comment. They need more support at home, and actually saying and suggesting that perhaps the best way to support Billy and mum is for more support at home. And then the last part of the comment I think is kind of quite relevant in terms of Mr. Merton, the school guidance teacher, and that's a really positive development, and that was commented on by a lot of people. But school has set times and set hours generally, and Billy would be able to access support there, but there's going to be a lot of times when that support isn't necessarily available to him. So does that still leave a bit of a gap? So thanks for that comment, Helen. Rachel, Rachel McLeod, I've pulled out her comment as well, so Rachel, thanks for your comment. And kind of someone, she says, I'm concerned that Karen's health seems to be worsening. This makes Billy more vulnerable, worried about the relationship with his father and the erraticness. And she actually she makes the point that I'm glad that there is a reliable male role model at school that Billy feels he can talk with, and probably that's one of the reasons why I kind of picked that out myself before coming to the university. My practice base was in residential childcare, working in residential childcare units in Scotland for 10 years, and many of especially many of the children, but many of the young men that I worked with would come from family scenarios that weren't too unlike Billy's story, in terms of they would often be in single parent households, and that would more often than not be the mum, and this notion of for a kind of lot of young men in terms of these kind of positive male role models can be a challenge in terms of how we ensure that young men in this situation have that opportunity. So that the fact that kind of Rachel picked this out about Mr. Merton potentially offering something different, being a very positive supportive factor. And she said he seems to be able to talk about his worries, and he knows that this is something that he can go to when he's upset. But she also goes on to say that there might be other things that might be more supportive for him in terms of, is there kind of young carers groups or kind of school activities that might help him to make more friends and build a bigger circle of support. And I guess that follows on from kind of Helen's previous comment about what happens at the other times in terms of kind of how can we create a more supportive environment for Billy, kind of more full stop. Got one other comment that I'd like to pick out in relation to Billy's story. It's from Kirsty Blaney. So Kirsty, thank you for your comment. I'm just going to pause and just take a mouthful of water here just to keep myself lubricated. Thank you. And the reason I've picked out Kirsty's comment is that, especially where it starts when she says Billy's relationship with his mother is confusing for him. Sometimes she provides a safe and secure environment for him, and other times she does not. And I think that's a kind of really important kind of factor here within the issues that Kirsty herself the issues that Billy's mum herself is experiencing, and how Billy interprets that and makes sense of it, and the very nature of kind of when people are experiencing mental health issues, and in terms of that notion of it can be confusing for Billy in terms of kind of sometimes and we'll kind of see that from Billy, what you've seen so far, and as the story develops, that sometimes mum can be very readily available and supportive for Billy, but other times not so much, and that's because of what she's experienced in relation to her own mental health issues. But the challenge for Billy in terms of kind of making sense of that and understanding of that and kind of understanding what that's about. And a number of people made comments about kind of using words such as like, could Billy get angry or frustrated or such like in relation to that. So I think there's again a kind of just an important thing for us to think about here in terms of how we best support children and young people to understand and make sense of their circumstances and their situation. And Kirsty raising the point that if we don't help them to do that, then that might be something that Billy struggles with to make sense kind of moving forward. So thanks, Sarah. You'll see the kind of hand coming out off the. I never mentioned this at the start specifically, but this is a nice example of it. For those of you that are watching in real time, if you post questions, they will come up and they'll get passed over to me, so that hence you see the hand appearing from the side there. So thanks for passing that on, Sarah. And actually the question relates to Billy's story, so I'm going to jump straight to this just now. So Falaki Revel. So thank you very much for posting the question, Falaki, and ask the question: what kind of help could Billy and his mother seek in their situation? And that's it's a really important. I guess it's a really interesting question just now. Now, obviously, Billy's story is created and set in Scotland and in the UK, and in terms of kind of Billy's story is obviously it's a made up story. It's fictional, but it's based very much in fact and reality. There will literally be hundreds, if not thousands, of Billys and Billy's families kind of up and down not just Scotland but up and down the UK, kind of experiencing some of the issues and some of the challenges that Billy and his fictional family are experiencing. And I guess one of the concerns that many people hold about our social work and social care system just now is that because it is so under strain in terms of funding and resources, and this feels something very topical to be talking about just now, as in the UK we've just entered into a kind of general election campaign, and we'll get political parties making all sorts of pledges about support for this, that and the next thing. And social work, children's services, social care kind of very much part of that. But I don't think it would be kind of too uncontroversial to say that certainly over the last 9 or 10 years we've experienced what's been referred to as austerity. We've seen a lot of public services, their budgets cut, and when the budgets have been cut, then the services that are available for vulnerable families and vulnerable children such as Billy have been in some cases really quite hammered and dismantled. And that's led to a concern that our services are becoming much more kind of crisis focused, and for families to access services it's almost it needs to be kind of the more instances of kind of things having to go badly wrong before people might actually be able to access a service, because there's less resource there. And it is, in terms of the first 2 weeks that we've seen of Billy's story, for an average children and family social work team up and down the country, Billy's, as much as we might assess that Billy and his family need support, they would not be a high priority case. There would be other cases that for social workers or other professionals involved would be causing far more concern and would be far more likely to see an immediate response. Billy, by seeking out support, has going to also we didn't necessarily give too much detail in the story about kind of Billy's relationship with Mr. Merton could have came about in a number of ways. Is it the teacher that sought Billy out by sensing that perhaps some things were going on, or did Billy kind of seek that out for himself? But possibly the best way to support Billy, notwithstanding anything that Mr. Merton or the school could do, would be to support Mum, and by supporting Mum and supporting her in relation to her own mental health needs, then that would be the best way to support the kind of family unit. But we do know that in the UK we have kind of often quite long waiting times for mental health, for access to mental health services, even when referrals are made. So there can be a whole kind of range of challenges here in terms of how we kind of access kind of meaningful support for families in this sort of kind of situation, and there is a real concern, as I say, especially in relation to mental health, that we have waiting times that are too long before families can actually access that support. So what I would suggest is, I don't want to give too much away in terms of kind of spoilers here, we've got another kind of 4 weeks of Billy's story to go, that kind of other things do happen and then other services are put in place. But without sounding too pessimistic at this stage, in terms of a formal social work response, for if this was a real case scenario, that I wouldn't imagine there would be too much likelihood that this being a case that was high at the top of the list for any service or support and intervention, because most social workers would be sitting with a long list of cases that would prevent that would cause more concern at this point. And actually, let me kind of move on to another comment that I pulled out here, because it's kind of very linked. And moving on from Billy's story, with a comment from Robert Wilson in week one, and actually this actually probably the comment made by Robert speaks very much to your question, Falaki. Robert in week one said, unfortunately not enough social work professionals supporting families in a preventative way, thus assessing risk as a complex and difficult balance between duty and rights. And he says, in my opinion, that's why high profile cases are highlighted in the media, which sometimes skews the views of Parliament and general public. So I think you raised 2 points here, Robert. I want to pick on the first one about the not enough social work professionals supporting families in a preventative way. It's my firm belief, both as a qualified social worker myself and based at a university where we educate and train and qualify social workers, and work very closely with the social work profession in terms of kind of helping our social workers to become qualified, that all social workers and all social work organisations, if they could, would want to be working in a preventative way. And again, going back to budgets and priorities, that becomes really difficult and almost impossible for organisations when resources are getting cut so much, and it becomes more of a kind of firefighting exercise where we're not able to do anything in a preventative way, so we see more families experience issues and difficulties and troubles, crises occur, and then that's when services and intervention happens, and it's about responding to those crises. And we'll get far too much of our, certainly in my opinion, and a lot of the evidence I think would kind of back it up, we'll get kind of far too much of our services are dictated towards responding towards those crises rather than doing the more preventative sort of work. And kind of thinking back to the local authority that I worked for before I moved to my role here at the university, over the last 10, 15, 20 years, a huge amount of their preventative services, the more kind of non-statutory kind of children's centres, a lot of those services have been cut due to funding pressures. The statutory child protection services stay in place, and the more preventative stuff gets lost, and that's a kind of I feel a kind of sad reflection, a sad development. Robert, I think you also raise an interesting point, or you make an important point about the impact that high-profile cases can have, and social work, social care is often a profession and a way of working that's more likely to make it into the media and get a high profile when things are deemed to have gone wrong, when there's high profile cases of either kind of child harm, abuse, neglect, or obviously in the kind of worst cases, children dying, and that can create a challenge for the sector and the profession in terms of how the profession prevents itself and how we would like it to be managed moving forward. But I'd like to link that into another comment. We got a comment from Kate Turner. So Kate, thanks for your comment as well. And in week one, she started her comment by saying, "I'm surprised about the statistic of children living in poverty in Scotland," and that's an absolutely kind of common thing for us to get. Say that this is on to the 11th run of this programme. We're not too far short of 70,000 joiners. Now we know that we've got a very kind of global a group of participants. We get in most runs over 100 different countries presented. I could take that just now, Sarah. Thanks. Thanks. Get another question coming in. I'll come on to this in a second. But the majority of our learners, or the more learners, tend to come from Scotland than elsewhere, and this comment comes up quite frequently about being surprised about the statistic of children living in poverty in Scotland. And when we know the relationship between poverty and different risks and different outcomes, especially in relation to kind of health and mental health and well-being, then many people would describe this as an ongoing shame of a country kind of such as Scotland, the fact that we, or not just Scotland, the whole of the UK, that we do have so many children and young people living in poverty, and that this is something that we will especially come back to towards weeks 5 and week 6 of the course, as we begin to kind of wrap things up and encourage to think about kind of some of the challenges in practice moving forward. Right, as we come towards the last kind of 5 minutes or so, I've got 2 comments that I wanted to pick up on, and I've had my third comment come into me here. So I'll start with the 2 that I pulled out, and then I'll finish with the further comment that we've had posted. So the comment in week 2 is from Gillian Greaves. So Gillian, thank you for your comment. And she says, "I work in a secondary school where we have many challenging behaviours." And she says, on the basis of doing the programme, she between the first 2 weeks of the programme, she makes the comment about giving her a greater understanding of looking beyond the behaviour of the children and young people and realising that it's something deeper. Pardon me, so I'm just going to get another drink of water just for a second. Pardon me. And yeah, Gillian, I think this is a kind of a really important point for everybody that's involved in the task of, be it educating children in schools, but just generally involved in the care and upbringing and well-being of all children and young people. But the notion that all behaviour is a form of communication, all behaviour comes from somewhere, and for a lot of the young people that are involved in the social work, social care services, they can present, and they do present, very challenging behaviour. But many of those children and young people, their prior life experiences, the impact that that's had on their growth and development, and thinking about some of the material that you thought about in week 2, especially about attachment and about kind of caring environments, actually a lot of the behaviour of children and young people is almost a natural byproduct of those experiences. So yes, I would always stress and encourage that we try to look beyond the behaviour and try to understand why it's happening and what it's about, because actually just sometimes responding to the behaviour on its own won't help get us to the kind of root issue, the root cause. So thanks for that comment, Gillian. And I pulled out another comment from Nidafor Eloise Funi. So Nidafor, I hope I'm saying your name correctly there. And so Nearford didn't actually say where he comes from, but he says, I would like some examples of a third world country where both parents are always absent during the day because they are at a farm, workplace, and older children take care of their siblings. And he goes on to make some other points as well, and I think this is a kind of really important comment. And again, probably kind of I don't necessarily make any apologies as such for kind of my experiences in kind of Scotland and the UK, and Billy's story is very much rooted in a UK kind of Western context, but the life circumstances of many children in different parts of the world will be kind of quite different to some of the circumstances that for instance are playing out in Billy's story, and you say here that there might be kind of far more instances, although this will be present in the UK as well, where kind of parents being continually absent, children being left more to take care of themselves or take care of siblings, and that is something that we'll think about a bit further as we move on the course about kind of that notion of kind of young carers. But what I would encourage kind of all our kind of learners to do is to think about kind of how the issues that we are raising in relation to the well-being and upbringing of children and young people, and these notions of kind of risk and vulnerability, how does that play out effectively in your context, in your scenario? Because we do need to recognise that in some third world countries, for instance, it will play out very differently to the Billy story scenario, for instance. Kind of some of the core things we're thinking about the upbringing and development of children and young people, yes, those are constant, but the circumstances and context in which children and families live, and the political and social environment they're surrounded by, and the services that are open to them or not, will differ kind of quite considerably. And so I would encourage all kind of learners and participants to think about kind of how does this play out in your scenario. So I'm going to finish off with the second comment that I've had posted. It came in from Arlene Cargill. So Arlene, thanks for watching in real time and posting the comment. These are always the scariest ones because I've picked the other ones out in advance, obviously. So as I read this out, I've got no sense what you're going to ask me, and I hope I can come up with something. So, could the family access respite services whereby Billy would have the ability to be cared for a short-term basis when mum's at a low point? However, I did realise this does not support mum. What an excellent question, and what a good point to finish with. So Arlene, I'm going to kind of answer your question by saying, right, I'm going to repeat the bit, but I don't want to give any spoilers away about what happens in Billy's stories over the next 4 weeks. But this is an issue that we will very much be thinking about. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to keep hold of this question, Arlene, and when we'll have another live stream at the end of week 4, and then we'll have the final live stream at the end of week 6. I'm going to pull your question back out at the end of week 6 because, again, without giving those spoilers away, it'll become apparent why I want to talk about that then. So if we could kind of hold that thought for just now, that will be something that we will most definitely be talking about as the course develops, but especially in week 5 and week 6. So that's us got to the end of the time. So thank you very much for joining us. Especially thank you to the people that have watched in real time and sent your comments and questions in real time that I've been able to respond to here. If you're watching the recording afterwards when it's posted on the page, there's still the ability to comment. So if there's anything that I've said, and I'm sure there will be, lots of this is not an exact science, and there's different schools of thought, there's different views and opinions, so I wouldn't expect that everything I've said would necessarily be agreed by with everybody that's sitting watching and listening. So if you've got something that you want to contribute to the conversation, then please comment on the page further down. Continue to keep the conversations going in week 3 and beyond, and I look forward to seeing you again for the live stream event in 2 weeks' time at the end of week 4. So thank you, and I'll see you then.